Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we have an Omega run, and this will be my second video that I've done as well, so looking forward to all that. We are going to do 10 books to review, and before we jump into that, I did make some minor tweaks and adjustments here, so you can see, if you saw the first video, I have moved away from just using the Canva with all the watermarks in there. So now I actually, paid for the thing, paid the piper, if you will, and now we have the actual background. So this is likely going to stay here for a while just because I did pay for it, right? So that's probably going to be locked in, but had some good feedback from some friends and family, and so the picture now, you see more of me and some more of my torso as well. Got my Star Wars shirt going today, but I can only zoom out so far. Like the camera I have is, I don't know, it's good at best, right? It's nothing too crazy. So, and I'm using like this software called like Prism Lens, which basically allows to have like a makeshift background, and then I can like cut myself out. It's, I don't know. So you can't like do too much on top of what I've already done, basically. So it kind of is what it is. But yeah, some other things too. So if I flip over real quick to the comic cam here, so you can see that this is still in the portrait mode rather than like the landscape. But unfortunately, the camera that I use for it, it only allows for just portrait right now. I haven't been able to figure out to do landscape. So it's just kind of going to be that way moving forward. But I added myself into the frame. That was a bit of feedback that people wanted as well. And then last but not least, and sorry audio folks, you just have to deal with this, I've also added in to where you can now see one of my desktops, and you can actually see what I'm talking about every time I mention on League, like what that rating is versus what my rating is. Now you can actually see that when I bring it up as well. So basically for each book, I'll just be cycling through these different scenes. That way you can just see everything visually as I'm going through it, and then you see me on the screen, and then yeah, it just should be kind of a smoother show overall is what I am hoping for. So with that, let's kind of get back to the main piece of the show here. We'll go into our reviews here. And so for this Omega run, 10 as per usual. That is what we typically do. I already have them queued up on the camera here. So we have World's Finest. It's a Batman Superman kind of crossover. It's the annual. We'll start with that and we'll go in this order. Then we have Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, number 7. We have Outsiders, number 6. I feel like the way DC always does 5 and 6, they always look so similar. But that's number 6. Then we have Batman 151. This is part of the Absolute Power run. It's a backlog. Star Wars, The High Republic, Fear the Jedi, number 3. Batman the Brave and the Bold, number 6. That is a backlog as well. That's our anthology series that we have going. X Factor, number 4 is a backlog. And then we have The Power Company, Recharge, number 1. That is from last week's polls. Doom Academy, number 3 from last week's polls. And then this was 2 weeks ago. I just never got around to it. But it's a magazine format. DC Black Label, The Last Days of Lex Luthor. This is the third and final for this Black Label book. So much larger format. Some of these Black Labels are magazine format, some aren't. They just decided to do this one in it. I've seen others that are not. It almost seems like kind of like a 50-50. It just kind of depends on what they feel like doing. So that is the order that we're going to do the books. Let's start off here with World's Finest. This, again, is an annual, right? So you have your singles, you have your trades, which are multiple singles put together, and then you have the annual. So the annual is basically the story, and it maybe ties in a little bit to what's happening. Maybe it gives you a little bit of background. Maybe it catches you up on everything that's happened in the previous year. I've seen it be a whole bunch of different things. I don't truly know or understand what the annual is supposed to be, but it's not part of the actual run. So this one for this series, it seems to just be tying in a lot to what's happening in Unlimited Justice League. So I think that's why they tied it in with both Batman and Superman, because you have different elements of the story that are taking place on the Justice League side. For me personally, I'm only really reading through Justice League Unlimited on that side, and then obviously I'm reading all the Absolute stuff on the other side of this all-in event that's taking place here. But I did want to pick this one up. I didn't have it on my pull sheet, but I saw it was in the shop. They only had a couple on the shelf when I went in on Wednesday to pick them up. So, but the shop also doesn't pick up a bunch of annuals because they also don't sell super well either. So I'm not sure if it's a combination of, was it that the shop ordered a lot and they were sold, or they just didn't order a lot and it looked like it was about to sell out? I don't know. But this book in particular was really, really good. I enjoyed the heck out of it. Let's flip over to the scene real quick. On this one here, you can see I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7. What this story basically breaks down is the background for Gorilla Grodd. And, I mentioned it before, how hilarious it is that you have the Justice League Unlimited. The big bad is Gorilla Grodd. Obviously, we have this whole, 100 humans versus one gorilla. Like, the timing couldn't be more perfect for this story to be in the zeitgeist at the same time that this series is going on in the DC universe. I just find that absolutely hilarious. But for this book here, it's that backstory. We find out he goes into the past and he's just basically convincing a bunch of villains, like, hey, how can I convince you that, A, in the future, you guys are all going to die, you're going to lose to the Justice League, but I have a way to be able to make sure that not only do you succeed, but we all succeed together. And basically he lays it out each way of how each individual dies. And for the Legion of Doom, it is the standard folks, right? You have Joker in there, you have Lex Luthor in there, a couple of their big bads as well. And basically for the flaws that you would imagine for their characters are the reasons that they would fail. So nothing that's too surprising there. And so by Grodd saying that, he does convince all the villains, like, okay, this is probably our best shot, or at least a shot anyways, that we can, dominate the world or the universe and so on and so forth. So he sets up a plan. Basically, each one of the villains is going to go out and get a MacGuffin of some sort. So it's 3 different things that they're after. And with these 3 things, they're basically going to be able to disrupt time using these 3 different devices, all go into the future. But it's like a moment split in time. You leave the devices there, and by doing that, then they're able to basically convince the Justice League that like nothing is actually happening, because it's like just a moment in time that they were able to do it. And by that split second, they by going into the future, they're not going to be followed or traced at any point. Now, the only thing that is the caveat on all this is as they're going after these 3 different MacGuffins, it's Batman's after them and Superman's after them. So it's like, okay, well, they obviously know that you went into the future. They're going to follow you as well. So what they decide to do is they literally leave one of the villains behind. They just leave Cheetah behind to take the blame for everything. So Diana is off-world and she comes back and she's like, really? You think Cheetah was the one that put all this together on trying to steal all these devices? That seems like a pretty big thing. That seems more like a Lex Luthor or a Brainiac type of activity. And then Superman and Batman are like, no, we stopped her. We know it was her, because they like took out that one split moment where they knew it was the other villains, and they think it's just Cheetah. And so you got 2 against 1, and Diana's like, okay, I guess that's it. So that's how they kind of got away with it. And then it brings us right into what has happened right now, where you have Airwave, who's basically given up the Justice League and turned on them, and now you kind of have the big fight that's about to take place after this. So the annual is good. It's really just going to give you the backstory on Grodd and what's happening. Is it worth picking up? It is just a one-shot. If you want to know a little bit about what's happening in the Unlimited universe, it is a good route to go. Let's see, how much was this book? I'm not sure if it has it here. Sometimes it'll have it listed here. $5.99. So it is a more expensive book. It is a little bit longer too, at 44 pages. So keep that in mind as well. But let's show the interior art here real quick. I think pretty standard from what you would expect here for DC books overall. I understand for, audio listeners, this is your part where you probably just skip ahead a little bit. And then for the visual watchers and viewers, me moving the book side to side, it's easier if it's all just in one place, but I kind of have to just move it for the time being anyways. Maybe if I elevated it might work, but that's the way that we have it right now. So that is the first book. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7, and that is World's Finest for Batman and Superman, the annual number 1. So the next book we have here is going to be Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween. This is going to be a very DC-heavy issue episode of the podcast and the show today, just because Saturday was very Image and very Marvel heavy. So I had a bunch that was left over, and it seems like a bunch of my backlogs are mostly DC heavy anyways. So this one is Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween. The events of this one all take place around a holiday. And so with this coming out now, I figured, it's probably going to be the Easter holiday. That's what I was betting on the whole time. It's going to be Easter, but it was not. We get that reveal towards the end. So I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And this book, it just basically picks up where we left off. And we left off on a pretty wild cliffhanger here. So this was where we found out that Robin was shot by who we presume is Holiday. And so that is a huge cliffhanger. It's like, what happened? Is he going to be hospitalized? Is he dead? You just never know, right? And so fortunately, the wound was as best case scenario as you can hope for. Pierced him in the shoulder blade, but not, paralyzed or anything like that. And then now he's in recovery a couple of weeks after. So Batman's going pretty hard on him, and he's already having him train. But if you remember in the very beginning of these issues, this is a younger, more naive Robin, and so Batman's kind of getting fed up with the antics of rushing in and not using your detective work and like just being too gung-ho basically. And so for this issue, Batman's pressing him a little bit, and it's like, hey, like, you got to step it up and protect yourself, and you can't be a liability because there are lives at stake here, right? Not just your own, but there are others as well. So obviously we know the risks of what it is that we do trying to save these lives, and you have these supervillains and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, you got to use your best judgment and all that type of stuff. So that's what I'd say the first quarter or so of the issue is about. But then we get into the middle section. We have Catwoman and Poison Ivy kind of teaming up right now. They're going after Falcone because they think he has some sort of connection to the Holiday Killer. And Batman, he goes out onto the prowl or whatever in the middle of the night, and so he ends up at their lair where Poison Ivy and Catwoman are. But then all of a sudden Catwoman starts attacking Batman. It's just like, whoa, literally 2 issues or 3 issues ago they were just teaming up together, so what's actually going on here? Then you come to find out that it's Catwoman is basically under Poison Ivy's spell. And so with being under the spell here, Batman's like, I think I know what's going on. Same thing happened to me. Maybe it was a couple years ago or a couple issues ago. It wasn't in this run, but just using from that knowledge, Poison Ivy probably has some ivies literally on the back of Catwoman and controlling her mind. So sure enough, he's able to like pin her down, and then rips off the back of her costume, and there are a whole bunch of vines that are connected to her. So he snaps those off, and then sure enough, she snaps too. But when he does that, then Poison Ivy then goes running off with, it's like one of the Falcones, I think it's like a painting or something like that. And on her way down the escape ladder, she gets shot in the leg. So the Holiday Killer is out, shoots her in the leg, she falls off, falls to the ground. And she's shot in the leg in the same place where Catwoman was shot in the leg. It was like issue 1, issue 2. So something suspicious there. Then, in the alleyway, whoever this Holiday was, another person shows up and then shoots not at the head but at the hat that Holiday is wearing and shoots that off. So now there's like 2 Holiday Killers that are potentially out there. That's what we know as the reader. And then it basically fades away. Then we have Catwoman and we have Batman. They then come down into the alley. They're doing some detective work and trying to figure out what exactly has happened. Batman sees the 2 bullet casings, so he's like, maybe the Holiday Killer missed and then had to shoot again. And he's like, no, I think there are 2, and the only way that it can explain that there's 2 is because of, it seems like there's every which way direction. They can never get one step ahead. So he is under the impression now that there's 2 as well. So now Batman is caught up as well. So that all takes place. Then Catwoman, Batman, they kind of go their separate ways trying to figure everything out. Catwoman then ends up on a dock or a pier. She was going after the Falcone's mother, who is in Italy, and thinks that she has something to do with it, whereas Batman is, I believe, going after the Dents. So it's like, is it the Harvey Dent side? Is it the Falcone side? They're not entirely sure which is which. And the mystery kind of continues. And then at the very end of the issue, we have Robin going to the grave of his mother, and we find out that the holiday that this is around is Mother's Day, which makes sense. I think it came out Wednesday, which is 4/30, and then Mother's Day is like the 11th, right? So I was like, okay, pretty close there. But I was for sure thought that they would go for Easter because I was, 4/20? So either way. So they always try to release these around holidays. I'd imagine the next one's going to be around the 4th of July. That would get us to 8. Then we're probably going to do Labor Day, which would get us to 9, and then end it on Halloween, right? Which would make sense. 10th, and that's how it all started, was Halloween before. So that's how I think it's all going to unfold. If we flip over to the art real quick, the art's fine. I say serviceable. Nothing too crazy here. Pretty standard for Batman. It actually reminds me a lot of like Batman 151. You can see right here like the reveal of the ivies on her back as well, like I was mentioning. So yeah, I enjoyed this book. Again, I gave it a 4, and Lee gave it a 4 as well. So that is Batman: The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween. Next up, we have The Outsiders, number 6. So this is a backlog as well. I really like this one a lot. This is going to be a 4. A 4.5. Lee gave it a 3.9. I think this is the highest that Lee has ever given this book. I've always been voting it a little higher. It's kind of our monster of the week style of book. And so this one, we basically end up in what's called the pages in between. And so for the pages in between here, it's a pretty wild concept. At first, it seems like it's kind of the end of the universe that these guys ended up traveling to. But then as you're talking with some folks and they end up in this nice little like quaint, 1950s, 1960s type of town, and they go to like a soda shop and they start talking to the people that are there, they end up being a bunch of characters, and they're characters from like Detective Comics. And the way they start talking, it's like, oh, how did you end here? Was it a crisis or was it a beautiful send-off? They're like, what are you talking about? It's like, well, if it was a crisis, that means probably the Justice League did something and then they stopped it. Or if it was a beautiful send-off, that means they wrapped it up, everything with a bow. And you basically come to realize that all the characters here were characters that were either like canceled or killed by the Justice League, or they're not doing any sort of series with these characters anymore. And this is where they come to die. So it's like a pretty cool way of breaking the fourth wall and all these. And they said very specifically it was like 119,000 different universes. And I guess that's since the beginning of Detective Comics. That's how many different series or maybe different characters that they've created throughout all those years, right? The decades and decades and decades of writing these books. I was like, dang, this is so cool and so meta. So now it's like, okay, is this where this series is going to die and going to end? I already know the answer because there are more books after this, spoiler. But maybe you didn't know that kind of going in week to week. And the way that they're talking about it, they're like, well, maybe, maybe not. And they're hemming and hawing. And a lot of this story is focused around Drummer in particular. So you have the two here. You have Lucius Fox on the front. And then you have Batwoman over here. But then Drummer, who's located here, this is really her story that is focused around. And you basically come to find out that she's not exactly who she says that she is. So they decide our story's not ending here. We're getting back. And the same, I think it was almost like a MacGuffin is like the best way to describe it, is the reason that they all came here. They discovered some sort of snowflake, or they discovered that the sequence of the universe is a snowflake. So by doing that, and they used this cave that they found back in issue 1, they went in and then, did a couple calculations, touched the snowflake, and that's what brought him here. And so then the snowflake in this universe basically became a humanoid person, and the humanoid person is like, I think I can bring you back. And so they brought him back. And then when we get back, this is where Drummer's like, I'm not saying who I was before. I'm somebody completely different. And by the way, all of this has been my story. So both Lucius and Batwoman, you are in my story that I'm writing. And she shows basically a picture of those two in her story, and that's the cliffhanger that we're left off on. So it's like a crazy mind-blowing, mind-bending type of thing that's really happened here, because each one of the issues up to this point, there's been some multiversal stuff, but at the end of the day, it has just been monster of the week, event of the week, scenario of the week. The whole point of this organization is there's something out there that's weird going on. We're going to investigate it. Whatever happens, happens. And from there, that's basically it. This was the outcome. Is it something we have to stop? Is it something we're just observing? Is it something that we need to intervene? Are we saving the day? Or is it just, yep, we found out this thing and then on to the next one? So I kind of like it for that. It's not supposed to be some long story thing that's drawn out and this mind blowing thing until now, which is interesting. So I am curious to see where it all goes. Again, I gave this a 4.5. Lee gave it a 3.9. Let's show off the art real quick. This one I feel like, pretty standard again as well. Nothing super over the top here. But this is the reference of like the soda shop that they're in. A bunch of different text bubbles that basically break down the whole story that I was mentioning before. Of course, DC, you have all these different advertisements. There's a drummer freaking out and then trying to get them all back to the real world. So yeah, it was it's an interesting book. I really, really enjoy it. So that is The Outsiders number 6. So let's now flip over to the next one. Batman 151. Again, this takes place in the Absolute Powers. So this is going to be, and hold on one sec, grab a sip of coffee here. This one's going to take place right at the beginning of Absolute Powers. And on League, let's see, what did I give this one? I gave this one 4. Lee gave it a 3.6. I mean, I could see it. I was in between a 4 and a 3.5. I think the biggest thing for me, though, is maybe I just know where this is all heading, so it made a little more sense for me. It is a backlog, right? So I know how the story basically goes at the end of the day. But the story here is we have Batman. He goes up to Selina, Catwoman. Basically, is like, hey, we know Amanda Waller. She's going after all the metahumans. We have to do something to save them, right? And so they're going after this MacGuffin called the Mother Box. And this is likely hidden in a far-off foreign island. And so this is basically going to be a heist type of book and type of mission. So obviously Catwoman is the one for the job. They're going to go in under different aliases, and Bruce pretends to be some sort of weapons arms dealer, and Selina is basically like his assistant. And so they end up on this island. They end up getting a meeting and trying to sell weapons, but beyond that, they want to actually set up their own base of operations on the island where they can kind of do their own experiments. At least that's how they sell it. And so they're able to get on the island. Selina basically sneaks off. She gets into her Catwoman gear and she starts, going on the prowl basically. But on the island already there are parts and members of the Suicide Squad and Bizarro, who you can see on the cover A here. And so she gets caught by them and a fight basically breaks out. And at that point, that's where Bruce gets into action. He gets into his Batman suit as well, but they find the location of where the Mother Box is. So they fight their way through and then get to the Mother Box. And then from there, they're like, okay, we have Bizarro on the outside. We have him distracted. The Suicide Squad is knocking on the door trying to get in. We can go through this portal, but we have no idea where this thing is going to take us. And that's what the Mother Box is. It's basically a portal. So it's like either it's a last stand here or we jump through. And they decide, let's both jump through together. It takes them to this different dimension, to this different world. And they're surrounded by a whole bunch of personal memorabilia of Amanda Waller. And they're shocked by this because she never comes off as someone who would be interested in any way in any sort of like personal mementos. But basically what they come to realize is like if shit hits the fan and Amanda needs a plan B, like there's nothing to do, this is her golden parachute. How she gets out and she says, screw it. If everything gets burned to the ground, this is going to be her island where she hangs out. So they're there and they're checking it out. And just when Batman realizes what planet that they're on, there's some bounty hunter that shoots at Batman and hits him. And as that happens, Bizarro and the Suicide Squad also went through the portal and have them trapped on the other side. And they're basically pinned down at this point. And it's like, what are they going to do now? And that's the cliffhanger we're left off on. And so I can understand why people are frustrated because it's like, why would this random bounty hunter just be sitting here in this random portal in a house of a whole bunch of Amanda Waller's like sentimental stuff? It's like mementos and family photos and things like her grandparents and mother did as far as like service in the military and medals and stuff. It's like, why would all this stuff even be here? That's not really characteristic of Amanda Waller in the first place. And then the other piece of it is like, why is this bounty hunter here as well? So I understand maybe some of the frustration there, but I thought the heist and the way that that was all pulled off was done really well. So that's why I ended up going with a 4 in the end. And so for this one, let's flip back over to the art real quick. Again, pretty standard for DC. Nothing crazy or over the top here. I enjoyed it. I would say, again, for this Batman series, this is really the time to just go with the current stuff. You have Hush going on right now, which had a lot of hype going into it, so that's probably where you want to be for a lot of this stuff. So that is all what takes place, and then, of course, that's the cliffhanger. The other part about this, too, is you have a second part of this book with Harley Quinn in it as well. And so with Batman and Catwoman, of course, being off-world, in this book, Harley Quinn, and it's like maybe 10 pages that this book goes into, she's actually becoming a hero in Gotham. So what she's doing is she goes to a nuclear power plant that the Riddler has set to blow, and he needs Batman to figure it out. And Harley shows up, and she's like, I don't know how to solve these riddles at all. But Riddler had a whole bunch of, it was 2 nuclear physicists like tied up, the guys that work at the plant basically. And so she's able to get rid of Riddler and then unties the scientists. They solve the riddles and then they prevent the whole meltdown. She's like, great, I'm the hero now, right? Like, well, actually, a lot of this stuff is under NDA and like we can't ever say that any of this ever happened. Obviously, if it got out that this whole nuclear facility was about to, melt down and kill all these millions of people that live in this city, they're going to shut this whole thing out in the first place. So yes, you saved us, but nobody can ever know about it. And so she then leaves like all bummed out about it. But, that's like a classic way to wrap up the whole comic without her seeming like a good person at all. And then just still be able to keep her in the same character that she is, which I find pretty interesting. So, yeah, it was a good book in my opinion. So that's 151. Then I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.6. Then we'll flip over to Star Wars. We are going to do Star Wars The High Republic, Fear of the Jedi. And so this came out last week as well. And remember, the High Republic takes way before any of the Anakin Skywalker stuff does. This is when the Republic is in charge. It is the High Republic. That's what it basically stands for. So when the Empire is in charge and basically controls the galaxy and has it under complete oppression, this is the opposite. The Republic has the full control. Except this is kind of in this one stage where the Republic is losing control to the rebels, which are referred to as the Nihil, and they're all heading to the final planet, which is basically the headquarters of the Nihil. And there's a couple of ships from the Republic there already, and our main characters then show up and form effectively a blockade. And so they come, they're able to reinforce the existing Republic there. Like, what do we do? It's like, well, this whole armada is meant to block people off. We can sense that a bunch of the other Nihil are coming in from wherever they are, scattered throughout the galaxy. So let's do what we do best, and let's block this whole thing off and prevent Nihil reinforcements from coming over to, it's not Edu, it's something like that. I forget the name of the planet. It's, let's see, Eridu is the name of it. So this book here, if we flip over, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. For this blockade, they start off in kind of their usual way of sending out all the fighter jets and getting everyone in position. Our main character, Kiev, who's the commander here, right here on the, I don't have the webcam up, is basically the main person here. And she was promoted from captain or commander to basically marshal of the armada, of the entire fleet. But she still is very similar to like Obi-Wan and Anakin, where she just goes into battle anyways, even though, those guys are generals and she's the marshal. And so a lot of the issues, first one and the second one, it's like, okay, you're marshal now. You should be on the bridge giving out orders. You shouldn't be going into the field and then actually fighting the fight. and she was very hesitant in the first 2 issues, didn't listen. Finally, she's convinced in this one. So basically has everyone else out there. This guy here is Scar. He's out there, in the fight as well. And so she's just not accustomed to it and not comfortable in being the leader from the bridge. If everyone else is going to put their lives on the line, she wants to as well. So a big portion of the issue is about that. Everyone else is basically out defending as best as they can. Then another protagonist, it was kind of like our Han Solo of this story, comes in from Naboo. Her name is Laura D. And she has a whole bunch of other allies that are on this ship. And they're flying in and trying to support the Armada in this blockade for the planet. And on the ship is one of the other Jedi. He's like kind of like a pseudo Jedi. I almost call him like an anti-hero Jedi. He starts seeing these visions, right? And he starts like wigging out. And the best way to describe it is like the fear gas, basically, from the Scarecrow in the DC universe. And he starts seeing these visions of his past, and he's terrified of like a friend that he lost. And we're like, well, what is going on? And in the Force, the Keeve and the others can feel that what's called the Nameless are coming. So these guys work with the Nihil, and the Nameless are exactly that. They are similar to the Scarecrow fear gas, where they can bore into Force users' minds, and basically they have them seeing a whole bunch of different imaginary things, like whatever they're feared, whatever they're afraid of, some sort of anxiety, it'll exacerbate it, right? It's just a bunch of different visions that they will see, and it could be a whole host of stuff, whether it be like a family member dying, or someone that they know getting sick, or just some sort of horrible vision that they basically see. And that is a cliffhanger that we're left off on. So still a lot to go as far as the battle itself. We haven't even got to the planet. Could imagine this goes to another, I don't know, maybe 5-6 additional issues. It could go out to like issue 10, issue 12. It seems like it's going to be a lot before we actually get to any sort of resolution here. But I like reading the High Republic because I feel like it's just an era of Star Wars that isn't explored at all. I don't think this is the time to jump in, though. You probably want to at least get issue 2. Issue 1 is fine. It's a bunch of like one-off stuff that doesn't even really carry into issue 2. Issue 2 is where they basically race off to the planet, and now we start off with the blockade, and this is what's actually going to be the crux of this run. So that is when I would recommend actually jumping in. Issue 3 would be fine, but you're going to miss some detail. In issue 2, you're not going to know about the Nameless either. That really comes from other series, so I'm trying to think. Yeah, for this run, number 2. Just stick with number 2. I think that'd be fine. So we open up the art here, and this is a Star Wars that's from Marvel. There's some that are Dark Horse as well. I tend to just read the Marvel ones, which may be shame on me. I should probably try out the Dark Horse ones as well. But this is like kind of the same cast of characters that I've been following throughout. So, some decent art here. Nothing too crazy or over the top, but I like what I see. So that's Star Wars, The High Republic, Fear the Jedi, number 3. So now let's flip over to Batman the Brave and the Bold, number 6. So this one is a bit of an anthology. So if we go here to League, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.9. I feel like that's about right. Some of these stories are hit or miss. We have 4 that are listed out in this one. So it's Batman Pygmalion, it's Stormwatch, it's Court, Second Chance on Life, I think is what it is. Court List, Second Chance on Life. Let's see if I refer to my notes here. Court, Second Life, Part 3. And then The Performance, which is just a one-off short story. So these books tend to be more expensive. Yeah, $7.99, 64 pages, which is effectively a double. And on top of that, there are barely, if ever, any ads in this either. So they end up being pretty hefty books that you're reading through. I think there are 20 of these in total, so we're on number 6 here. If you want to get this, just get the whole collection at the end of the day. But it is an anthology. Some of these books are okay. Some of them are great. Some of them are meh. These ones here, you have part 1 of Pygmalion. Stormwatch is part 6. I haven't enjoyed Stormwatch at all, to be honest. Hardcore, I do like, but it's pretty short. It's like, I don't know, less than 10 pages of the full issue. And then the 4th one tends to just be kind of a one-off, very, very short. So most of the pages are put into part 1 and part 2 thus far. And so we'll start with Pygmalion here. Part 1, Batman in this one has amnesia, basically. He doesn't know where he's at. He doesn't really know what's going on. He doesn't know he's Batman. He barely knows what is happening in the world. So he has to learn all the basics all over again. It's a single mother nurse and a daughter who are taking care of him. And it takes like weeks for him to even get to a comfortable part of his life where he feels like he can even fight. So the muscle memory comes back pretty quickly. He has no idea that he's rich. He has no idea that he's Bruce Wayne. He doesn't know how he used to make money. He doesn't know his why as to why he's Batman. He discovers all of this in part 1. And at the very end, he basically goes out on his first actual quote-unquote mission where we have the bat signal up in the sky and he like actually starts to respond to it. So that's all of this, is just this amnesia and him just, it's basically an origin story, if you will. And the girl is a huge Batman fan and basically has to teach him how to be Batman. So that's what he does. And he learns through her. Second part is going to be Stormwatch, part 6. So this book is interesting. Basically what they're doing on this one is they are a group of, almost like the Suicide Squad is the way to describe them, not exactly, but they are a group of anti-heroes that are gathering a whole bunch of really high-powered artifacts. And the reason behind it is they basically want to be able to stop the Justice League in case the Justice League does anything wrong, right? Or goes rogue, or they go too far, whatever the case may be. But what they didn't realize when all these folks voluntarily signed up for this is that in the end they'd be working for Amanda Waller, who was revealed in part 5 or part 4, I want to say. I think part 4 she was revealed to us, part 5 they found out. And so part 6, now they basically have a big meeting with everyone and Amanda Waller puts it all out. Hey, yes, we deceived you, but only a little bit. You're still doing this for the right cause. Here's the why behind it, right? And in case the Justice League goes rogue and goes crazy, we need all these artifacts so humans can fight against them. But there's no need for it right now because in this timeline the Justice League is broken up. So we're just going to continue to gather everything just in case. And so with all this knowledge, now basically the members of the Stormwatch need to figure out, are they going to continue in this program or are they going to move away? So you have 3 different parties, if you will. I think it's 6 of them in total. 2 of which are like gung-ho, we're in, let's do it. 2 that are like, no, we're definitely not, we're out. And then 2 that are like on the fence and they're trying to figure out whether or not this is still the right thing to do. And that's the end. I mean, meh. It's just kind of okay, to be honest. But then we go into Harcourt, Second Life. I do like this one a lot. Part 3. We have a woman who came back to life. Amanda Waller was the one that brought her back to life. So Amanda told her basically, hey, I brought you back to life. You need to do me some favors here. But by the way, I'm going to tell you exactly who killed you so that way you can have your revenge. So that's basically the first 2 parts of this. So part 2, the person who she's going after, which is like a metahuman user, and I forget his name, I didn't write the note, but basically he can conjure up weapons from like the ether and it can use them. And they're like these magical weapons and guns. And at the end of part 2, he was like, I didn't kill you. I don't know who you are or what you're talking about. Her name's Amelia Harcourt. And she's like, oh. And then she kills him anyway. So it's like, oh, man, we have a psychopath that we're dealing with here. And now in part 3, you come to realize, oh, she does know that this guy didn't kill her. And in fact, she has all of her memory from her last life as well. She just pretended to Amanda Waller that she doesn't have all of her memory. So that way she can kind of just go off and do her own thing. So smart, and I love it. And so, yes, she did kill that guy in part 2, but she was given like a tiny little vial of Lazarus, like potion basically, which basically just brings someone back to life. She brings that guy back to life, and she's like, hey, I know I just killed you, but I also just gave you a second chance at life. So I will kill you again unless you give me your powers to conjure those weapons. And so he's like, fine, and basically gives her those weapons. So now she's got these weapons that she can pull from out of the ether, from whatever sort of void realm. And now she goes after the person that actually killed her, which was Boomerang. And Boomerang, of course, is part of the Suicide Squad. So that's the end of this part. So clever, so smart. I like where this one's going. This is one of my favorites. This is another Riddler as well. That's Tom King is writing. That's part of the Brave and Bold. That is probably the best. But that one's like super, super dark. Catch it on some older podcasts if you want to listen to them, mostly on the Omega runs. But man, that one is insane. But Harcourt is definitely in second place. And then last but not least, we have is the performance. So the performance is just a one shot. It's this guy, it's a one man act. He's doing some sort of Batman performance. And then he's rigged up to this like pulley that brings him up into the air. He falls down and he dies. So now there's this whole investigation from this fall. And as there's an investigation, Bruce was actually there for this particular show. So of course he goes into the whole Batman costume. And then when he comes down, he reveals himself as Batman. This guy actually didn't die. He basically set this whole thing up because he wants to go and kill Batman, and he recruited a whole bunch of goons that he had, I guess, set up as like mannequins or whatever because they weren't part of the show, but they all have weapons and they're shooting at Batman, so he's got to jump and dive and dodge and duck and dodge all over the stage, and he's able to get the better hand of all these goons, and the guy gets captured and he gets brought in. So just a quick one-off, one-shot story. It's like 4 pages long in black and white. So let's flip now over to the art on this one. So again, you have 4 books, right? So the art does change up ever so slightly. So we have Pygmalion at the front here. So it's, pretty good as far as the art's concerned. And again, there's no ads in any of this. So that's, kind of the full splash that you have right there. And then now we get into some of the Stormwatch ones. So here's the Stormwatch, and they're, collecting more of these devices. Then let's get to the Harcourt. So this is, where she's reviving the guy after killing him. And then we'll get to the performance at the end here, which is all black and white, which is pretty good and pretty cool as well. So, yeah, that's The Brave and the Bold. I will say sometimes I get to The Brave and the Bold and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a chore and a slog. I have to read through all 64 of these pages here because I refuse to mail any of this stuff in. Like, I'm truly going to read this and give you my full commentary on here's what I think, whether or not you should spend. This is $7.99, right? So I spent the $7.99. I want to either help you stay away from that, or I'll tell you it's like, no, it's definitely worth it. So this, I'm on the edge, but this is the only 4 that I've given thus far. Most of them are in like the 3.5 ranges. So The Brave and the Bold just really hasn't been doing for me overall, but the Tom King one in particular is so good for that piece, but this one didn't have it. So, and again, all the books are out as well. So if you could find a deal on them, maybe, but that's really the only time I'd say jumping into this one. So that's Batman, The Brave and the Bold, number 6. I gave it a 4. Lee gave this one a 3.8. Then next up here we have is X Factor. So let's flip over to our shared screen. I gave this a 4. Lee gave it a 3.6. And I'd say for the most part, Lee doesn't seem to be enjoying X Factor nearly as much as I am. I love this book, except this issue was a little bit of a bummer. But this book is such a great commentary on the satire of like, let's get clicks, influencers, followers. All we're doing is just trying to put the right pieces together to make the X Factor group more popular, more famous, more likable, whatever the case may be. And it's not about solving the problem at all, which is so funny and hilarious. And just what a social commentary on everything that's going on right now. Obviously in the news right now, Grand Theft Auto 6 delayed until next year. Like, oh my gosh, are you freaking kidding me? Although I knew it. I knew it wasn't going to happen this year. I called it, and like half the industry was like, there's 0 shot this thing is actually coming this year. And then here we go, delayed over a year. Insane. But that level of comedy and commentary is what the X Factor is going for. And for me, it lands. For others, based on the scores that it's been getting, it probably does not. But I think it does land on this one. This book does take a little bit of a step back, right? So we have Havoc here, and then we have our other character here, and honestly, I forget her name, but it's going to be on here. Celia Reyes. So she is the one who is, and let me flip over to the comic cam here. She is basically the one who is going to be the main focal point of the story. She is basically the has an ex-boyfriend that she hasn't talked to. Their whole X Factor team is brought onto a brand new mission. We have a bunch of scientists that have gone towards the middle of the Earth, so they've gone drilling down there, but they got stuck. So they recruit the X Factors to help them out. They go drilling down there, and as they go down there, they're actually going to recruit a new mutant to be part of the team. They don't know who it is. They get to the drill site, and come to find out it is Cecilia's ex-boyfriend who is there waiting for her. her. So of course she's pissed off and is like, I'm absolutely not going down into the middle of this earth and like this tin tube with this guy who I absolutely hate. And we learn the backstory on these two and what happened. So we come to find out that the ex-boyfriend, after the fall of Krakoa, which was the island that all the mutants were living on in peace and harmony, there were some issues here and there, but there's this haven that they created for themselves that has fallen. And when that fell, the ex-boyfriend didn't know what to do. He got caught up with this group called X-Term, and X-Term is basically Magneto's vision, like to a totally different degree, right? You have Professor Xavier, who wants coexist with humans and mutants. Magneto's philosophy, who basically wants humans separate and mutants separate, right? Completely separated from one another. And then you have X-Term, which is basically like, we need to enslave humans because we are superior in every way. And so that's what the ex-boyfriend gets caught up in. And so he doesn't know any better, the young guy, and just ends up doing their bidding. And then he starts to realize, like, this ain't it. And so he decides to leave. But when he leaves, his parents are then killed. He's like, oh my gosh, parents got killed. I'm dating this girl. If they find out that I'm dating her, they're going to kill her as well, too, to try to get me back, right, as some sort of leverage or blackmail. And so that's why he completely ghosted her and let her alone. And so with that, explaining the whole story, then Cecilia came around, felt better about it and everything. So they're up in the ship having this whole discussion as they went down to the center of the Earth. Havoc and some of the other members, they found the scientists. There are these little pockets of air where they drilled into. Their thing came off the rail there, and it was attacked by these enormous giant spiders that are down there. So with the spiders, apparently they consume metal under the core of the Earth. Excuse me. Get a sip of coffee, actually. So they're consuming this metal. And the ex-boyfriend, he's actually a teleporter, so he can teleport everyone out of there. So while, they're kissing and making up between Cecile and the ex-boyfriend, Havoc's like screaming up to him, finally gets their attention, teleports everyone out, gets everyone out all nice and safe. So the biggest piece I'd say for this is not actually the whole, ex-boyfriend, girlfriend type deal. It's learning about X-Term, because at the end, you basically see that X-Term is going to be the next thing that X-Factor goes after. And then I wonder if Polaris is actually going to be part of this. So a couple issues back, Havoc is dating Polaris. Polaris doesn't want Havoc to join X-Factor, knows that it's basically a bunch of garbage, and they don't actually care about doing any good, and it's all about the clicks and the views. Like, they literally film all their stuff and so they can publish it on what they call Click Clock. Hilarious, instead of TikTok. So funny. But Polaris is like, we can do like some actual good, and she's part of this underground mutant thing. I wonder if somehow that gets turned into X-Term, and we find that out in the next issue. So that's X-Factor number 4. Let's show the art real quick. I like the art a lot for a lot of the X-Men, the way that it's done and the particular style. It feels more like Saturday morning cartoon is the way that I'd reference it a little bit. Pretty nice splash here at the center of the Earth and a whole bunch of lava and stuff here. So the other thing with Marvel, a bunch of ads as well, but that does happen. So yeah, that's X-Factor number 4. I gave it a 4. Lee gave that one a 3.6. Next up here, we have from DC, it is The Power Company Recharged number 1. And so this issue here, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9, so pretty close to being on the money on that one. This is a more expensive book, though. It is $6.99 is what this book is, so do keep that in mind. 48 pages, so not even like, the full 64 or anything like that. So that is a thing to consider. I will say, though, for the cover art, if you guys are actually seeing this, let me actually flip to the actual comic cam on this one. I love this cover art. Just the detail on it, the different colors between kind of like the goldish orange to the blue, and specifically the blue that they picked, and it is incredible. It's more of like, not like a teal, and like not like a midnight blue. I don't know, just a blue. Look it up on League. But this is actually cover B and not cover A. Cover A, I'll flip over to it here so you guys can see it. I have it on the camera up here, but I'm so glad I got cover B, because cover A I like cover B I like so much more. So flip back over to that one. And so anyways, this book is basically, the Power Company is a faction within the DC universe, and they're recharged or reforming. They're based out of Atlanta. They want some help. There's been some metahumans that have been targeted and attacked, and they need support from Batman in particular. Now, this isn't a Bruce Wayne Batman. It's a completely different Batman that is debuted in this one, and he does answer the call and reluctantly decides to help them out. And the entire time throughout this issue, basically all they continue to say nonstop is, Batman, I work alone. I don't work with anyone else. Do not help me. Do not support me. And that is most of the issue. So Batman goes to the house where the killing happened, basically does this whole investigation thing and plays it all out in his head as here's likely what happened. And as he's playing it out in his head, you're seeing flashbacks to what actually happened, which is following along to what Batman's logic is. And find out in the house, here the parents brutally murdered in front of the mutant kid, and whoever the vigilante was killed the kid as well, right? So just gruesome, brutal story. You'd think this is borderline a Black Label, the way that this was written. And so Batman then goes look to turn outside, and he's like, probably whoever did it is close or was close. And it's some sort of ex-military guy, and he blows up the house when that happens too. So you're like, oh snap, did he just kill Batman? Like, there's no way he got out of there. But he did, because he's Batman, of course. And so now Batman's like, goes back to the power company, lets them know, here's what's happening. I got a lead. I think I know where it's going to be. Nobody help me. Nobody support me. And so they don't. And Batman shows up to the lair of this guy. He has this whole place rigged up to blow as well, but Batman's able to capture him. He does dump acid all over his body to like try to stop him as well, and he ends up in the hospital. So this is like a pretty brutal book for a non-Black Label book, I'd say. So it does have that going for it. Definitely more adult in its content. And so Batman at the end was like very thankful that you guys didn't intervene or didn't help out at all. So it's like, what are the other characters even there for? I don't even know. And so Batman's like, hey, if you need my help moving forward, I will help and support you. But the whole time it's like, all right, we're going to help. Like, we can do a lot. And he's like, no, I work alone. I'm going to handle this my entire time. So what's actually good is like how gruesome and bloody and like dark the story is, but the whole like, you don't need to help me, I'm gonna handle it on my own, and sure enough he does. It's like, okay, we'll see if the next couple issues of like he gets into a sticky situation, he can't get out of it, and how he actually does need those folks' helps. But at this point it's just Batman doing Batman things, which is hilarious. But anyways, let's go and look at the art. Art is good. I say a step above of what it usually is for DC, which is good. And that's, the explosion. Nice little splash page that we have there. Let's flip a little further. So yeah, I mean, a pretty big step up from what it was previously, or some previous DC books. So yeah, I enjoy this one. It's not, I'm pretty sure. Oh no, this is just a one shot. So yeah, it's just one and done. So is that the time to jump in? Yeah, if you want to just check out that one, I mean, go for it. So, but yeah, that is the Power Company Recharged #1. So now, let's flip over. We got just two more here. Doom Academy #3. If we flip over to League, I think I gave it a 4. I sure did. League gave it a 3.6. A little bit of a downer, but I like this book. I think it's pretty fun. I really like this cover too. It's more of like pastel-y in a lot of the colors, a lot of green too. I like it. So this one, a little more kid friendly, if you will. We have Zoe, who is our main character here. Let's flip over to this camera so you can actually see it. Zoe, our main character here, was sucked into a fairy tale world. So all of the Strange Academy students, they're used to training with Doctor Strange. They end up now at Doom's Academy, because Doom is the Sorcerer Supreme. This is all the one world under Doom, so this is the event that it's taking place right here. And with that, these kids are just getting acclimated and used to everything that's going on at this Doom Academy. But so far, for the most part, it seems to be like a pretty good change of pace. But Zoe, she's got this crazy roommate. She keeps hearing things. So in the first and the second issue, she goes and she follows it and gets sucked into this book. And at the end of the second issue, we've come to find out that she is with this other girl, Greta. And Greta was a girl that went missing years ago, and they never knew what actually happened to her. So at the end of the second issue, while she's with Greta and they're in these fairy tales, the students basically see a security camera, and the security bot alludes to the fact that Greta actually created this book, and Greta has her arms up like she's about to strike Zoe. So that is the cliffhanger we're left off on issue 2. So for issue 3, we're like, uh-oh, Zoe's in trouble here, right? What's going to happen? But very quickly, we come to find out that Greta did not create the book. The book was created by something else. And Greta, when she went to swing, she wasn't actually swinging at Zoe. There was some sort of witch behind her. So both Zoe and Greta, they take care of that witch. The students outside of the book that are trying to find Zoe, and then subsequently Greta as well, they go and get one of their teachers, Zelma. Zelma's like, okay, we can go and find her, but if we have something that's more personal to Zoe, the magic charm or spell that she has is going to be a lot more effective. So they decide to go to Zoe's room, and in there is that weird roommate. And here's where we find out that the roommate basically put together a charm so that she would hear the voices of the book, because she says her previous roommate was Greta, and nobody's searching for her anymore. And Greta kept hearing these words, and so she created those words as a charm, hoping that Zoe would then go out and also be able to find Greta, while this roommate just basically stayed there. So that's what she decided to do, and by doing that, sure enough, Zoe did end up finding the book as well, and then was sucked into it. So at this point now, the students now know that Zoe for sure is in this book. They also then find the book as well. They bring the roommate in them together, and they're like, okay, we basically have to figure out how are we going to get her out of it. And Zelma, the teacher, is like, okay, I think I have a spell for that. All that takes place. Inside the book, Greta and Zoe have taken care of the witch, but Zoe has a secret to where she's actually part zombie, and in the fight, she turns into a zombie. And when that happens, Greta freaks out. So they're in a fairy tale book. So there's a whole bunch of monsters that come after them. So she thinks that she was tricked by Zoe, and she's actually one of the monsters in the book that she's been fighting off all these years. So it's like, no, I understand why you're afraid, but like, you don't need to be a bigot about this. I was sucked in here. Like, just listen to me and hear me out. And so they go back and forth. And then finally, Greta's like, okay, I guess I'll trust you for the time being. And as they laugh about it and they seem like they're on good terms, that is when Zoe is then pulled out of the book, and all the other students are so happy to see her. And then Zoe is like, you need to put me back in that book immediately, right? Like, put me back in there now. And that is the cliffhanger that's left off on. And then, of course, like in the next issue 4, it's going to be like, the reason is Greta's in there. We found her, right? So good book. It's fun. It's entertaining. Let's flip over to the art that we have here. So anything in these red borders are basically things that are happening in the actual fairy tale book. And then we have some stuff that's happening on the outside. This also feels like very Saturday morning kind of cartoon-ish type of vibe. So here's where Greta turned into that zombie, basically. We've got some more advertisements here, but this is also in the fairy tale book. So you have Zoe here, you have Greta right there as well. And then here's where she's basically getting sucked out of there and then back into the room. And then from the room, Zoe's like, I have to go back. So yeah, I've been enjoying this book. I've read the last Doom Academy as well, which was, I think Finals was that one. And I just like reading this book overall. It's just cool to see young magic users and like how are they going to go about solving whatever is going on that year, that semester, whatever's happening. So that is Doom Academy number 3. So now let's flip over to our last one, which is our magazine format here. And of course, I put all the other books on top of it. Boom. Superman, Last Days of Lex Luthor. So this is number 3. This is the last. We finally conclude this book that's been delayed forever and ever. And now that I actually have the share screen, I can pull this up here and show you guys. So I gave this 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.3. This one obviously just came out. Then the second one came out back in March of this year. And then look at the first one, July 25th, 2023. Are you kidding me? So long ago. My goodness gracious. It's the longest delay I've ever seen, and then the book actually come out to the end and not like completely canceled. This first one I gave a 5, but I was not reviewing at that time. Very, very young and immature into the hobby, if you will. So I don't know, like it truly was a 5. These days, if you're like brand spanking new, I want to keep it to like less than 10 fives in a calendar year, like that small. If he could be less than 5 fives, I want it to be that. It's got to be so incredibly rare. I have to audibly gasp multiple times in order for me to actually consider it a 5. So yes, I gave it a 5 then, but if I were to score it right now, I'd be a 4.5 for sure. There's no way I would have gone 5 on this one. But this story, now that it's concluded, let's flip back over to last one I gave a 4. Lee gave that one a 4.3. This one I gave a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.3. Great ending and very sentimental towards the end. This one gets a little sad here. So we have Lex is dying and we don't know why. And the first issue is basically Lex convincing Superman why you need to save me in the first place. And he does convince Superman in order to do so. But we find out that Lex and Clark Kent were best friends back when they were kids. They had a bit of a falling out because Lex was trying to basically communicate with aliens, and Clark was like, crap, I'm an alien, like, you're going to find out about my secret. So he sabotages the whole thing. They have a falling out. Lex goes on to be big bad evil. Superman, obviously, we know, goes to be Superman. So that all has taken place. These books, they're going across all sorts of different dimensions and universes, trying to find out all these different ways on how they can save Lex. He's got some sort of disease that literally nothing can solve. And then at the end of book 2, we find out it is Brainiac behind all of this, and Brainiac who is causing Lex to die, and there's nothing that they can really do. So, the beginning of this book, we start out here where we have Lex and Superman trying to get away from Brainiac as best that they can. They're also in this room that is like surrounded by kryptonite, and it's siphoning off Superman's abilities. So he's not 100% here. He's like maybe, 70% of his full power, but he can't take on Brainiac unless he actually has his complete and full power. So Superman and Lex, they are able to escape, and when they do, they head towards one of Lex's secret labs or research bases, whatever, that Superman was not aware of. And at this point, Lex is like literally on his final hours. He's not even able to do all the stuff that he wants to do to create some sort of device. And he's like, Superman, you just gotta listen to what I say and just put all this stuff together. So he goes, he puts MacGuffin, and boom, they have created some sort of machine. And the way that Lex explains it to Superman is like, hey, this is going to give all your powers back. And Superman's like, okay, great. So what's the catch? Well, as Lex and the disease I have, that I'm going to die. And Superman's like, whoa, non-negotiable. We can't do that. And they get into this huge argument, and Lex is like, really? You're going to save billions of people, the entire planet, and you just have to let me die, who's like your arch nemesis anyway. So like, seems like a pretty fair trade. Nobody's going to miss me. And then Superman ponders on it, thinks about it, and it's like, yeah, but like, it doesn't have to be this way. I'm sure there's something else that we could do. But basically, they have to both put their hands into this thing, and then it does whatever it does, powers up, and then Superman gets his full powers, but it's going to kill Lex. And so Superman thinks on it, and they're like, okay, fine, let's just do it. So puts their hands in, and then sure enough, the thing goes off, and then Lex, he falls to his knees, but then he gets up. And turns out he now has the power of Superman. So what Superman did is he changed the polarities or the direction of which the energy was going to flow. Superman still has whatever weaker powers that he had before, but all the full out power of energy was then diverted to Lex and away from Superman. So now Lex is basically Superman. Just like, holy crap. Got all the powers, all the abilities. What was this evil genius now going to do with all of that? And fortunately decides to do the right thing. They take the fight to Brainiac. So they go and they fight. Superman's taking on a whole bunch of like, I guess it's like Brainiac android drones. Like think of like Ultron drone bots. And Lex takes on actual Brainiac. So they fight. Lex is able to beat Brainiac. Great. Superman, he's dying, and like not actually dying, but like his powers are draining and they're only getting worse. They're not getting any better. But when they defeat Brainiac, all the drones then die, of course. You have the one Brainiac sitting over there like on the ground, and Brainiac's like, you defeated me. The reason you defeated me is I never thought that Superman would make literally the dumbest decision and decide to actually save Lex. But that's the miscalculation that he made. And so he's like, okay, well, with this, fine, you guys win this round. Of course, I have some body that's uploaded somewhere else deep in the universe, and we'll do this all over again as we always do. But with that, here's a parting gift, and his body self-destructs, and it self-destructs with like the red sun radiation. And so I'm not super familiar with Superman. Obviously, we know the kryptonite is what destroys Superman's powers, but I guess it's also red sun radiation does the same thing. And basically, towards the end of the book, we find out that Lex has died and Superman made it out okay. And I guess because Superman didn't have the full powers, but Lex did, he died. And so Superman goes up, press conference, says like, yep, I'm going to hang up the cape too. I'm completely done. You'll never see Superman again. And he goes and he lives off like a life as a hermit. And then we come to find out what actually happened when that body self-destruct is Lex actually took Superman, saved him, ran him all the way to the edge of the blast radius, and like then threw his body out. And then Lex died in the blast. So he sacrificed himself to save Superman. And his last dying words were, "Tell nobody." And then boom, completely eradicated and gone. And that's how it ends. So that's the end of the three-parter. I was like, damn, dude, that got me in the feels. So definitely a 4.5. Not quite a 5, though. Let's be real. Not quite a 5. But excellent book. It's just a three-parter. They're all out now, so I'm sure a trade will come out or see if you can find all three. Magazine's format, so I'm sure it's more expensive. Yeah, it's $7.99, so keep that in mind. So if you wanted to get the whole thing, you're going to look at $21 or so plus tax and all that jazz. So, but I'd say this one's excellent. Let's flip over to the art real quick so you can take a look at that. Art here is pretty wild, right? So just look at like the detail on some of these first couple of pages here, right? So this is the fight at the beginning of the book. We'll flip to a little bit later. Here's where Superman is putting together the device. Here's where they're bringing the fight over to Brainiac as well. And then towards the end here, kind of some of those final moments. And then we have the very end here where I'm like literally crying of like, tell no one. So yeah, that is Superman, The Last Days of Lex Luthor. Excellent series. It was worth the wait. It was worth the wait. It took forever, but we finally got there. Thank goodness gracious. So that is going to conclude it. Let's run through the books real quick. So the annoying thing with the magazine format is it doesn't look the best when I'm trying to like represent everything. So we had The World's Finest Annual. That was the number 1. We had Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, number 7. We had The Outsiders, number 6. We had Batman 151. We had Star Wars The High Republic, Fear the Jedi, number 3. That is a mouthful. We had Batman the Brave and the Bold, number 6. We had X Factor, number 4. Then we had The Power Company, number 1, and I guess just a one-shot here, so that's all you're going to get for that one. Doom Academy, number 3. And then, last but not least, The Last Days of Lex Luthor, number 3. I guess fitting that is the last one, as it is the last days overall. So that is an episode. Let's go through all the rigmarole for the closing of the show. Appreciate you guys tuning in, listening, watching, whatever the case may be. Always much appreciated on the support. So obviously on the YouTube, find me at Saturday Morning Comic Review. You can find that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts as well. On TikTok, I'm the Helpful Bailiff. And the reason I'm the Helpful Bailiff, and I'll flip over to this so you can see the shared screen, is that is my name on League as well. And it all actually started from Marvel Snap. I just clicked one of those random names and it showed up as Helpful Bailiff. And I was like, that's hilarious. Let's just run with that. So that's what I am on TikTok. That's what I am on League. And then for Instagram, just Saturday Morning Comic Review. You can find that there. And then if you want to send any emails, tips, tricks, things you like, things you hate, if you don't want to comment on YouTube or whatever the case may be, send an email at saturdaymorningcbreview@gmail.com. All the ways to get in touch or follow or whatever the case may be are all in the description here on the YouTube and then on the podcast as well. So yeah, once again, really appreciate it. Any other tips or tricks as you guys are watching and things that you want to see me update, and if there's tweaks you want to see in the format and how those go, just let me know. especially on the video side of things, just building this 1% at a time, just trying to get as good as we possibly can, just one issue, one episode at a time. But with that, I think we will go ahead and close it out. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.